All right, welcome on back, everyone, to this episode of First CSP, the channel dedicated to bringing you the first council shoulder patch issued from each council in Scouting America, both past and present. Today, we're going to take a look at Susquenango 368 out of New York. It was originally formed in 1920 as a name change from Binghamton 368, and it existed all the way up until 1998 when it merged with Baden-Powell 381 to become Baden-Powell 368. Now, the first issue here for Susquenango has three variations, S1A, B, and C. And the first two are exceptionally difficult to differentiate between. So let's head on over to the patch table, try and let you guys see what we're looking at here with Susquenango Council. This is the S1A with its gold border, tan vertical stitch background, gold fleur-de-lis, red name, brown state outline, and state names. They list this as being a plucked eye in the name for council, and then the penna is 6 millimeters by 31 millimeters. So this is the Susquenango S1A. One of the biggest differentiators, which is not highlighted in the collecting guide, is that this is a slightly smaller patch than the S1B. All right, let's take a look at the S1B. We will end up putting these head to head. The S1B is listed as also having a gold border, tan vertical stitch background, gold fleur-de-lis, red name. They now list the state outline and names in dark brown. I don't find visually that there's a super big difference between the browns. They look very close. When measuring the penna on this one, I get 6 millimeters vertically by 32 millimeters. It's super close. But you will find that this patch in general is slightly longer by a couple millimeters than the S1A. These two end up being two of the most challenging to differentiate the issue. So I'll show you the difference in the length. So if I set these on top of each other and I make sure that the leftmost edge is together, I can kind of hold those in place. We are going to see that there's a slight size difference on the side over here. It's not super great. As I'm moving things enough that my patch table's not happy. So you can see visually just a little bit. Yes, this does look slightly darker under the light as compared with the S1A, but man, it can be difficult, especially if you're tilting the patch. The light changes on how it's expressing the brown as well, which makes it really difficult. For the longest time, we looked at this and thought that this was the picked eye. So we actually had this S1B labeled as an S1A for the longest time until we realized that there is a slight discrepancy in the length of penna, and this ends up being what measures in line with what's listed for the S1A. You can see if you look at the style on the sewing that it is slightly different. Let me make sure we get the A's on there as well. So looking at the top of the G, for example, we're going to see that these are just slightly, what we get is what looks a little bit bolder of a text font on the S1B as compared with the S1A. As you can see how thin this L is for council. It's a bit thicker for everything down here at the bottom. That's another way that you can kind of differentiate. They do say that there is a range of size and height on the fleur-de-lis thickness for the S1B. I don't know how much that range does change with the production runs for the S1B. They look fairly similar as far as those portions in comparing these two patches. Again, these are very difficult to kind of make easy differentiations between just looking at the patches without, again, getting out your ruler and actually, measuring this as the 31, and then measuring this one, which for me, as I said, measured out as 32. So very, very close. Again, I even think that these browns look close. I do think this does look darker, but I can't say it looks darker by much. Now they followed that up with the S1C. S1C, fortunately for us, is very easy to tell the difference because the background here is horizontally sewn. The patch looks considerably different than the previous S1A and S1B. You also get kind of a much more rounded standard CSP shape for the S1C. So I'm going to leave the S1C down here. I'm going to put back up the S1A at the top. So you can see considerable difference there. They do also list the color of state and names here on the S1C is dark brown. Okay, this one, it's a little easier to see the difference in the dark brown. It is darker. But I think from S1A pictured here to the S1B that we had, it's a closer brown to dark brown. Now there is another patch that collectors should at least be aware of when they're collecting to not get caught up in, and that is the S8. I actually saw the S8 listed as an S1C erroneously, although this is not horizontal. This is a vertical background. But if you get a nice, clean, sharp-looking, especially council eye point, you're probably looking at an S8. The S8 has a gold border, but the background is a light gray vertical stitch. So let's put that one against the S1A, and you're going to see that it's gray pretty easily here. We can see that we've got tan vertical stitch versus light gray vertical stitch, but I have seen this patch listed for sale as an S1C, which is definitely incorrect. So you do want to be careful about that. Taking a look at the back here, this is the back of the S8. Again, by comparison, this is the back of the S1A. And obviously, I know we spent considerable amount of the front half of this looking at the differences between the S1A and S1B, but I'm going to put up the S1B just one more time because I do think this is one of the most challenging identifications and kind of leave you with those comparisons between the two for the S1A and the S1B. That is Susquenango. Hope you guys have enjoyed this episode and found it to be informative, possibly entertaining as well. Again, we really do enjoy trying to hunt down all these variations to be able to bring you the comparisons so you can see them side by side. Will hopefully either help collectors or just find it as something informatively entertaining to watch. If you've enjoyed the episode, please consider giving it a like and sharing it with your friends. We'll be back again tomorrow with another brand new episode. New episodes out every single day. With that, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you on the next episode.